I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid, man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate, I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case, I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning. I purchased a Lamborghini, driving around the city. Believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm burning, just getting started. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in the club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Let's press up on the fashion. Classy, every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the real, let's press up on the fashion.
Thank God for this life we live. It is a blessing. We have all we'll ever need. This is why I'm sitting by that we have all we'll ever need.
Yeah, for all you guys who don't know what was out there, but I lost one of the most important people. This is the most important woman in my life on Friday, 4/25. So this podcast is going to be dedicated to you, Mom, up in the paradise, watching down on us. And so just kind of the whole thing of this podcast is really going to be the art of self-worth, right? And what I want to touch in is when you go through some of these really hardships, right, you can actually sit back and see what's really important to me, and the people that were there, how important are they to you? And the third piece is who was there for you? You know what I mean? Winston, we had a pretty intense conversation outside of my porch, right? And we're talking about you know people that you think are in your corner, or you think would even give you a reach out, even I like to say even a fuck you, and take that. But nothing other than acknowledgement. And you start to sit there and say, well, what do you do? And we're talking, me and Winston, right? We're talking about what do you do and what do you do in his position. I'm a little different, right? And my position is even though I try to live my life as Christian-like as possible, I said my position is I just won't be there, right? When you come in and knock on my door, I'm not going to open that door, because I kind of live that old school mobster way where it's all about honor. I think a lot of things have been lost in honor and in that respect level. But how about you guys? You guys, what's up, man? Tell me what you guys been doing. How's life since I've been on the sidelines?
Things have been going along. Work as usual for me, really, and like I've said in the past podcast, just branching out, focusing on business and business as usual. just trying to get through all this craziness and stay off social media as much as I can, because it's been a negativity vortex. But other than that, things have been as business as usual. How about you guys?
My thoughts of I've been trying to text you as much as possible because, I've been through that before. I've been through that with my little sister when she was 17. She died in a car accident, but I've had grandparents. I had a cousin that died of cancer. So my heart goes out to you. And I know you're going through a tough time, but I think these times you find out who's just like you opened up when you started about people who are in your corner and people who have thoughts about you. And I've cut people out of my life that I know weren't there for me, especially when my little sister was killed, so, and I still, 30 some years later, I still haven't, that scar still hasn't been fixed,
Yeah.
and that's, I know what you went through was tough. So, and I know this is tough.
One thing that stuck with me, and me and Jack have had this conversation, is that, when you have something like this happen in your life, it's not really, something it's not like a sickness, where you just heal from it and you're back to normal. It's kind of something you learn how to live with. You know what I mean? Is that big loss and filling that certain void. But, as Jack is probably the strongest person that I know, for something to hit him like that, it really does hit home. So we've had tons of conversations and he's helped me. And I think, me going through the loss I went through recently is me kind of sharing some information with you too. I think has kind of helped. But yeah, I mean, it's really something you learn to live with. There's always going to be that void, you know what I mean? And like for your loss too, it's hard to just act like nothing ever happens and move on from it, but you kind of just learn to live with it.
Yeah. I thought about you so much, and I'm sure you felt me. I sent you a lot of love. And, there's one thing, I've dealt with death since a really young child. And so I've kind of navigated through life, learning how to, figure it out a little differently. I think it's harder for the fact of it being something that is going to happen, rather than it's so abruptly happen that you just kind of, it's straight in. So I have to honor what you had to go through leading to that. And, it's something that none of us can believe. I ran a lot in the last week I ran in silence. And the biggest thing for that is because I wanted to not feed my mind anything. And I could really feel you, and I could really feel the thought of it. And it's when I look back at what you taught me, a lot of those, stuff was stuff your mom taught you, and it's so it's such an honor to have a woman like that create a man like that. And it's something that I'm sad I never got to meet her. But I get a piece of her through you. And it's beautiful because a lot of the stories you tell me, a lot of stuff I written down was wisdom that your mom taught you. And so I just have to honor that, I grew up with a single mom, so I couldn't imagine losing the vessel that brought me into the world, so on all aspects, on everything. And you really learn who's there for you. And that's okay, because that's something that I'm glad we're talking about, because I haven't been watering anybody's garden, and I've been noticing who hasn't watered mine. And it's because it's important that we take that moment to have that sense of space and air to really see what's there and who's there, and is it for love or is it for titles? You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing is it's important to have those filter moments, of space.
I think, Nikki G, I think for us, when you talk about death, right? For me, I've been, to me, I think death is an honor. And I think when you die, in my belief system is that you're going to go to paradise, and so you're there in a way better place. And so your spirit's there, and then your best body, whether it was when you were 20 or 30 or whatever, and it's probably even better than that, right? Because you don't have any of the elements.
It's glorified.
It's glorified, right? It's there. And I think the thing for me is, I think most of the stuff is about us left behind. And, it's crazy because people call me up. I think even Carson kind of freaked out when you see me, that I wasn't all distraught. More people were more distraught than I was, and I was her son, right? But I said this is my opening line. I was a good son to my mama my whole life. I was able to take care of her these last 3 weeks. Tremendous help, man. This is a freaking shout out to Bree there, helping her clean her. My pops, they were talk about the support system, right?
Mm.
But the one thing that I gotta say is that I felt that, you know what, I made the choices that I could do that with her and bring her home, and so that all her family and friends could see her and spend that moment past this fucking COVID bullshit, right? And the weeks leading into this, when she was at the hospital, I remember sitting there and they were going, it's one person for this. The doctor was pretty awesome, but I'm a pretty aggressive fucker, if you guys know me, right? So I said, it's going to get deadly. You don't let me in this place. And we're already at the emergency room, so people are going to be taken care of right away. Because that's going to be fucking. It's going to be
have far to be transported.
Yeah, no one. Because I'm telling you right now, you better send an army. And so I think that's why I don't have any regrets, right? When I was sitting there with my family and a lot of people like really in sorrow, then I also know it's going to a better place. So for me, selfishly in my heart, I'm thinking, man, you gave me everything you could on this earth, and now you're going to go to a different spot. I don't want to see you. I saw her degrade. I can't say I saw her suffer. She degraded because we took care of her. She wasn't in pain. And I even sat with my dad and I said, you know what? When we're talking to the doctor, I says, suffering, you're using the word incorrectly. She's degraded, not suffering. She's not in no pain. We had to use very minimal of the narcotics, almost none of it, to be honest with you. And I was very proud of that because that's what she didn't want, right? And she went very peacefully. But for me, sitting here, right, and I'm a different animal. As Saul says, comes in, gives me a big hug day, and he says, General, I know you're 85% human, 15% machine. And I said, what's crazy? I said, is that I'm 100% spirit, but I'm 100% badass, right? In the sense that I view things, I have such a sense of my mind, and I have such a sense of my person, and it's so aligned that you really can't sway me from that. You know what I mean? So you're never going to see me break apart. I try to stay that position because I've worked for so many years to be there. I think today what I want to be able to really express to the rest of the people out there who are going through some hardships. First, I'm not going to say that they're not going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Right? I'm not going to say this is a fucking walk in the park. Yeah. But I can make a painting look easy because I put in so many years of work in order to get the painting there. And I'm using that as a literal. I can't paint with the shit. Yeah. Just so you get that, on that piece of it. But I've been working to get here emotionally and mentally and physically. That's why I was able to get through this, because I see from a broader spectrum. But I think the one thing about me was this, like, a lot of amazing people out there. I got to tell you guys, all those comments on Facebook and the people that were texting me, the Johns and you guys sitting here, other close friends. But there was people that I've stepped out there for that I didn't hear a fucking shit, not even a damn emoji on it, right? In that moment, I could have said, oh, it's all right. But no, I sat there. That's why I was talking to Carson. I said, when that situation, because it always comes back, right? I tend to be a pretty big waterfall of water. I won't be there. And when I'm not there, it ain't going to be like I just baited you. I'm going to say, do you remember October, this Friday at this time? The thing about me, my memory is just that good, right? And when I'll give it to you, it's just nothing to talk about. There's no ill feelings. There's no anger. But I guess when I thought about that, I said, well, who taught me that? My mom taught me to take no bullshit. I mean, Carson, you had a pretty good relationship. You knew who she was. Yeah. Toward the end, she commanded everything she wanted toward the end. Even when her mind was going, when the cancer was destroying her brain, she still was able to command to the end. And I was like, look at this. Here's this frail lady in a bed still commanding the doctors, and they're yelling for me to go back there to calm her down because she's speaking, you know what I mean? And so when you look at that kind of strength, I sent a lot of people a response on my text and said, she was the fire and the iron who forged the man I am today. No bullshit. What she forged me to be today, preparing for the military, that was a walk in the park. Martial arts, that was a walk in the park. Engineering school, walk in the park. All that because of that work that she put me in through in that moment. And the big bad Phil, that is what I think about it. The boot camp, the discipline, I wrote something. You guys, can you pull it up real quick on Facebook? What I wrote. And I just want to see if Nikki or John, if you want to read that real quick, because when I put that was no bullshit words. That was just solid, right? Those are the facts. And people say, well, where do you get that whole thing of wanting to help people? And it was taught to me. I didn't just wake up one day and say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like let, the sick, the oppressed, all that. This is shit my mom was drilling into me and was freaking amazing, right? I want to tell you guys a great story. I remember my mom, we were in Espanola, and we walked in to the Long John Silver's, and there was a man eating out of the trash. And she's like, is that man eating the trash? So she goes in, says, I want to talk to the manager. Manager comes out and says, who's that man out there? He's like, oh, sometimes we help him, he's on an issue. And my mom says, I want to buy him lunch and dinner for the whole week, and I want to pay it up front. And I want you to make sure. He goes up there and says, you don't want to eat out of the trash. She goes to the car, gets a set of blankets, and gives it to him. No questions, right? Now, why are you fucking up? No, that's that kind of heart. But on the other side, she was hard as shit, right? You're always kind of conflicted. I think that's the feeling people get with me, right? Yeah, I have that real soft side, but then that edge. So you're kind of like, whoa, who really is that? It's either hot or cold. Another time I saw her, we're going down, I saw a kid, no shoes. She walks up to him, same thing in Espanol, and says, goes to the dad and says, is it okay if I buy your son a pair of shoes? The next moment I know, we're going to Bell's and gets him a pair of shoes, delivers it back to him. That kind of servant's heart, right? But my mom didn't teach us weakness. She didn't teach us that feel sorry for yourself. And this is where I want you, John, you want to read that for me?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yesterday, my rock, my pillar, made her journey to heaven. My mama. My mama is a woman who forged me to be the man I am today, to be a man of God and a follower of Christ, to work hard and to never accept failure as an option, to set my goals and to live life with no limits, to live my life with no judgment, and always to have compassion for the less fortunate, to protect our children, elderly, weak, and needy, always to fight for their rights. My mama was an accomplished wife, mother, foster mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, florist, business owner of over 25 years. Mama and my dad celebrate 56 years of marriage this past Thursday, and she was very proud of this accomplishment. Mom, I promise I will crack the whip while you're gone on the family, and even Dad. I know that I made you proud as a man, and I'm trying to hold this together. And I have become to carry your legacy forward. Love you forever. Your one son, little Jack. So I'll put some pictures.
That was pretty emotional there, but with that said, that told you the start that I get. It also tells you what type of responsibility these young mothers have out there. When you think about this, and I never thought about this, right? When I was like, well, what businessman was I looking at or person in social media? I didn't need to. I had an entrepreneur at home showing me what the act of business. That's why I became a businessman. But I forgot to even think about that. So at the end of the day, everything that I started with, about 90%, was taught to me at home. How blessed was I, right? And I use that famous line, if I was a complete fuck up, I got no one to blame on myself, because I have no excuses whatsoever. Zero excuses. Hardworking mother, hardworking father, all that place. And that's why I try to become that type of mentor for everybody. And I call it kind of like that big brother. I sometimes even a father to people, right? And that's the kind of, what I'm trying to find here is, that was the type of wisdom that she instilled in me. And so that's why I think it's so powerful. You know what I mean? But what are some of your thoughts, Winston? Like, you met my mom a few times.
She was the one that would cook you a homemade dinner after a hard day's work, but she'll yell at you if you had your hat on at the dinner table. Yeah, she did that to me all the time, huh? Because I would forget, you don't lose those things. She'd be like, get your hat off. But then she'd be there making my food exactly the way I wanted to. You know what I mean? Every time. So, like I told Jack, I said she was hardcore, but she deep down, you know what I mean? She had true intentions. And what I told him was your mom was really a true good woman, because she was genuine. She would tell you, if you're doing something wrong, you're going to know what's wrong. She's not going to have a hard time telling you either. But her intention was pure, because in the long run, you know what I mean? She was the one to tell you, you need to correct this. And that's just kind of how she was. And that was the impression I had in her. But I was just glad I was able to spend time with her. The day I went by, I spent probably about 4 or 5 hours there with them, and I was just making her laugh and stuff, and she was still able to, and I was like, what the heck? We got to have some Frito pies. That's what I came over here for. You know, she starts laughing. The Frito pies were probably the best ones ever. So I hope you have the recipe.
I got the recipe, Winston. I got the recipe.
But yeah, that's how she was. She was a firecracker, but she was an awesome woman. She, even from the first day I met her, Jack's like, you're riding with my parents. And I was like, right, just met them. And then they're, you know, sometimes you're like, shoot, I don't know how to act. But they treated me like family right away. Her and his dad. So that was kind of how I can explain her from the few years I got to know her. But yeah, she was awesome. And she would make me laugh too.
Yeah, she was.
Even till the end too, she was still telling her pops, be quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just glad I was able to spend that time with her, and still conversate with her and things like that. That was huge.
And I think that's what it kind of shows you, you know, the quality of life and the quality of people you should be choosing in your life. When you sit there, I mean, we talked about this, Carson. You know, we're sitting out there, we're drinking a Corona in the back, and he says, you know, this is what, now I understand why Drake does this. This is why Drake has a circle. You don't hear anything about him. And it's all because, you know what, you're choosing that quality of people that you know are going to be there for you, the thick or the thin. They're not the fans. They're not what I call it, the fly-by-night suckers, all that. Or if, you know what, if there's not a need in their life that you need to fill their void, that they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know.
And I think that's where you got to really stand here and to really understand, say, okay, the hell with that. But the one thing my mama did teach me was, she's like, you know, you call those suckers out to the mat. You let them know where they stand with you. It's not like, you know what, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying
That's
to
what
say?
we were talking about too. And he asked me, he's like, you know, when you want to do this stuff, did this happen? And I said, oh yeah, some of the people I thought were closest friends to me, you know, didn't go to the services. And you can imagine there were thousands of people at my brother's service, and some of them weren't there. You know what I mean? And even people barely knew they were there to support me. So for me, it was kind of one of those things that really was a big place in my life to tell me who's really there for you and who actually really cares, versus the people who just want to be a part of, you know, what you're doing or act like they're there for you or do certain things. And that's kind of the conversation me and you had, is that this is a good time too, because it's able to tell you, you know, who are your real friends and who are the real people that, you know, you invest time into, and not just when it's a need. But there was something I saw on Instagram, I think it was, and it kind of related. And it's like, you know, in times of hardship, do you look out to God or do you lash out? In times of glory, do you look out or lash out? And it's kind of the same thing with friendship. It's, you know, when everything's good, everyone wants to be a part of the greatness or the success or any of that. But when everything's bad, who's really there with you in the valley and in the mud, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been a crazy couple weeks. Actually, I wouldn't say me personally, but one of my best friend's brother passed away. He killed himself, and I hadn't slept the night before because I had orders out, but no sleep or anything. I jumped in that truck and I went with her to clean out her brother's house, and it was just me and her. And, you know, like we went to college together.
Yeah.
But I knew how to, you know, you let people heal the way they need to heal. And a lot of people were trying to tell her how to feel. And I'm like, that's your brother. You heal the way you need to heal.
Yeah.
But I was there for her. I loaded the truck. I mean, I did everything. But, you know, just to be in that energy of feeling of that pain. And this was going on while you were going on through stuff as an empath. It's really crazy what you feel outside of it. And at the end of the day, it's like, I know I was there for her. Like,
Yeah.
I know I checked in on you. And like at the end of the day, I don't expect any of that back. However, I know who's really there for me.
Yeah,
Do you know
for
what?
sure.
I haven't had someone ask me if I was okay in a really long time, because I'm always asking them if they're okay. And it's crazy. So this whole running journey that I just did was for me.
Yeah.
Like, I even started rewarding myself. Like, before I did anything, I was like, I'm going to give me the self-love and that love that I've never given myself, that I ever have. Like, if I can give everybody 1,000% of me, like, I should be able to give myself that. And so when I did this run journey, you know, I dug through skeletons. I mean, there was stuff that arose when you run in silence. Stuff comes up, you know. Ooh, there was some stuff that I even forgot about that I dug in, but it was so transformational for me. Like I prayed for all of you guys. Like, I mean, I've ran in the mountains, I've ran in the foothills, the rivers, treadmills, and it was such a spiritual transition that I needed to go through because I never put myself first. I never knew what that was. And like working with Jack, it really broke it down. Like he really broke down those veins of needing other people. And so when I was left there and like there was not one phone call, nothing, I was like, wow, like I spent my whole life watering with my sacred water. Yeah. People's water that, you know, they didn't even care. They didn't even fucking prune the trees. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's and so like now when I released that, it's like I rose in a vibrational state where all of a sudden these people, and you guys are a part of it, have arisen. And it's just like, wow, these are where I'm supposed to be at. These are people that give what I give back, you know? And, and it's such a powerful thing, but it's beautiful, you know, like it's funny because when I think about you, and I thought about you way before this happened with your mom, I was like, this guy knows how to handle powerhouse women. And I always found it intriguing because I study you, and you know that you're like one of my favorite subjects. So I was really analyzing the way you navigate. You know, I watch everything, body language, and I can see your circle, and I'm like, this guy knows powerhouse women. And when I really thought about it before you ever told me about your mom, I was like, his mom has to be a powerhouse woman without a doubt. She set a tone so high for you that you can't even have anything less than that. And so when you have the people they have, the man thing is always going to be a man thing, but to have a powerful woman's a whole other energy, it's a whole other substance. And like I knew when I met you that without a doubt your mom was a powerhouse because of that's the tone you set. You know, I knew even sometimes when you see me, it's like you see reflections of the type of woman that your mom is and was, you know, and it's such a beautiful thing, and I'll always honor that. But I want to let you know that I saw that way before any of this arose, you know, and it's powerful. It's super powerful.
What, just from my perspective, you know, I know people say, well, you'll feel better, it's going to be coping. It's how are you going to cope? You know, that's going to be the hard part, you know.
John, in your experience, I mean, you feel like with your sister, would you think that was probably the hardest loss you've had at this point? Your sister?
Oh yeah.
What do you think, John, with to now? It's how many years later now? You said about
33
years. What has been like? Did you feel like there was things that were left behind? Like, what makes you feel like in the coping side?
Holidays, you know, when you pray with your family, you know, those parts still heal.
So do you feel, John, like there was a lot of like, obviously, how old was she when she passed away?
17.
Oh yeah, so there was a lot of life that you feel like a lot of things that weren't able to be experienced, right? And I think that's a very tough thing. And I think for the listeners out there, understanding is when I look at it, that's really tough because my biggest fears, you guys know, biggest fear of all time was to lose my mom when I was little. Holy shit, I used to cling on to her, watch her. I mean, she was like the greatest gift I possibly could ever have. As long as my mom, I didn't want to be my dad said Jack was a little odd fucker. He didn't want to be with his friends. He didn't like shit. I like doing blocks and Legos and hanging with my mom. That was it. All the way till I was 12 years old. I mean, talking, she take a nap, I took a nap. I was like that. I was like her best friend, right? And when you think about that, John, I think the reason I feel is that I was able to have her my adult life, like my real great adult life. And, you know, when I hit that 20 space and I was successful, that I was able to share those things with her, right? That's not about the monetary shit, but still she wanted to do. She liked the casino. And she says, you know what? I remember I'd give her envelopes, right? And then she'd open up the envelopes and fucking freak out. My dad's like, how much is in the envelope? And he'd be like, there's a few $1,000s here. You know what I mean? I do that all the time. And I do that to both of them. That's okay. You can't take his, you can't that, because I want to see that expression, right? and in that love. And I think that's what's tough. I think for me is I felt very fulfilled because I used to pray to God and say, don't take my when I'm little, when I felt the most vulnerable, right? And so I always felt like, okay, well, God gave me this time. He gave me her all the way to the age of 42 years old. And I felt like, and then she was like strong. He won the cancer hit, right? 63 years old. She gets it. They do the surgery, a little bit of radiation. From 63 to about 67, you know, you wouldn't think she had cancer. You're like, what the fuck? How do you get some cancer so easy, right? And then it came in rapid. And I remember sitting with me and they said, you know what? I think it's in the rib. We're going to do this. And she looked at me and said, I'm not doing this shit. God gave me more than what I asked for. I'm not doing this shit. And I was fighting with her. You know, I have all these resources. You guys know the resources I can bring. And she's looking at me like, no. And I was sitting there today when I was sitting in my chair, I'm thinking, well, if she had allowed them to look at the rib, maybe cut that fucker out, would have then have gone to her spine and to the rest of the shit for years later, would she be here? But what I had to respect was this. That is not what my mom wanted. That's what I wanted. With the problem solving that I am. It's not what you wanted. And so it's tough when you have these fucking hardheads together, right? The powerhouses together, like you're saying, strong women or strong humans in general. That's where it gets tough. And I think that what we got to look at, John, and for us here is that they're in a better place. They're in paradise waiting for us. They're looking down at their highest vibration possible and saying, here, you know, your sister, my mom are hanging out right now listening to this podcast because they can always look down upon us. And that's what's beautiful about that, right? That we're going to want to join. And I think that most people, you know, you think about it and say, you know, heaven's on earth. No, that's fucking bullshit because, you know, sometimes life it sucks. Your knees hurt. You can make the greatest, do everything you can to achieve the greatest moment you have here, but know that you're going to build for something else. And all the great things you do here really dictates kind of like the size of your room. I always talk about it, right? And
that's what it says.
That's why for me personally, that's why I try to do the greatest things.
Yeah.
We're all going to have a room, but I like the big room. So I want the big room up in the paradise, right? And so that's why I do that. But not only that, it's just because who I am. But I think the one piece of it, like we talk about it, it's tough when you have that feeling like John, myself, you know, Theo Ross. And then you got those people that were there like you thought were going to be there, and they weren't there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the difference for me is I don't have any feeling towards them. Trust me. Not even a tiny bit. Because you know what the statement I made to Carson? I think he looked at me and was kind of smart. Says, the day my mom died, they died to me. And there's no fucking resurrection with me. Once you die to me, you're dead. It's just who I'm built. Right? And I thought, the day you knock on my door, I'm going to open that door. Like I told you. And I'm going to let you know when I'm going to close that fucker on your face. And, you know, I was talking today to one of the top management, and they're like, oh, you know, one of the employees feels like, you know, they don't know how to reach out to you and do this. But I said, but the motherfucker has the balls to reach out to me about 2-3 deals that we got to get done. I said, come on. I'm a high intellect. If you feel weird about contacting me, you should feel weird about contacting me in every sector, not one sector. But the thing about it, does it jade me and be like, oh, well, we're not going to continue doing business, or am I going to, you know, change the future of where they got to be? No, they're not going to do that because I didn't hire you to be my friend. I hired you to perform. But I will tell you one thing. We're out on the fucking battlefield and you run out of bullets and you don't got no food. I'm going to let you fucking die in that fucker because you know what? It's just business. And that's, for me, that's a lot easier place to be in my life is that personality. It's just business. Then I don't have to worry about when you're not. Because I always know I'm going to make it because remember, that mother of mine told me I was a champion since I was a little boy. She said I was unstoppable. So that's why I've never needed a lot of outside influence from anybody. What I give a shit. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the piece. And it's not because it comes from like a hard place, like, oh, I hardened my heart. Because some people I was talking, not Carson, someone else like, would you harden your heart? I said, no, I've told you guys. If you listen to what I've tried to teach you, I don't hold on to shit. I'm not like this, ever. I'm like this. But it doesn't mean I turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Just have strong boundaries.
Strong boundaries. But you know what the crazy part is? I already knew you're a fuck up. So it's not like he shaded me like, oh my God, I thought that was a really good person. I guess my hopeful self was thinking, are you really that low? But you know what? It all tuned out to because you know what? The difference between me and my mom is I have extreme judge of character, and I know if you're worth 3 cents or you're worth $100, and that's it. Just part of it. You know, you know what I say? Coins belong in the coin jar. Money belongs in the wallet. So you know where to put people.
Absolutely.
You're in the coin jar. You just rattle. You see what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
And I think at the end of the day, it's just that very common thing. If you don't know how to do something, send a fucking prayer, send a prayer hands. I don't know. But it's hard for me to believe that people are like, oh, they don't know how to give. I mean, that's the dumbest thing ever. I gotta say, I had once a very close friend. We had a fucking major falling out. And you know what's pretty freaking awesome? I got a text from the individual, and he was like, you know what? I'm sorry for your loss, this, that, and the other. And I really appreciated that. That's honor. Even when war, there has to be honor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you're sitting there and you're like, I want to be part of the camp and I do this, and I'm like, so you want to be part of the camp? You want to eat my cotton candy? You just care about the peanuts and the cotton candy at the stand? That's fine. Because you're never going to make it really into the palace. Those are the things that I say. And I think what I want people out there to understand is learn those boundaries. And if someone doesn't show you that, cut them out of your life. You don't need them. They don't bring any value. There's no value to it. But it's sad that it takes a major death or something where you need it to really pull you back, sit you down, and sit there and say, you know what? Holy shit. This sucks, right?
Yeah. You know, death really always brought that, you know. I always freaked out when my uncle Tony got murdered like 10 years ago here in Albuquerque. All of a sudden, my family started doing family reunions. It took something so tragic to bring a family together, you know, and it continued for years and stuff. But I think about all the times that I dealt in different deaths, and a lot of majority was like suicide. I think I was in 6th grade, and the guy that I considered my dad and my mom got in a fight. He had a restraining order, and I used to sneak up the road to go visit him, and he would buy me candy, and we'd hang out, and I'd be like, you got to go. So one day I was in a championship basketball game. It was the night of that, and they had a restraining order, and he drives up in his Harley, and he's just like, you know, kept telling me I was unstoppable and that I was special and I was going places. And I was so worried about my mom busting him and getting mad at him that I was like, you got to go, like, meet me tomorrow. You got to go. Well, he drove away and killed himself. And so, like, as a kid, when I carried that type of heaviness and regret, you know, I had to deal with death on that. But one of the biggest things I learned, you know, especially after I lost my great grandma, is it's kind of like we build this movie as we're going through life. And when we pass away, it's the time that people should honor that movie that we created. You know, it's like celebrating, like there's a moment of pain, but also the moments of memories, you know, because we get so lost in the how we feel about the death and not the honor of what a blessing it was. You know, like think about all those little memories. And that's like one of the things that I had to change myself to get over some situations. And like, you know, the only thing promised is death. And the only thing guaranteed is change. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't always have to take these moments to realize who's really here for us and how much have we really, like how many times have we called the people we love? You know, when I recently had that issue with my nana falling and all that stuff, like I freak out daily, you know, I'm like, how did I go weeks without calling sometimes? How did I go this? And I'm not waiting for her to die to take care of her. Like tomorrow's her birthday. She wants to pick Pignon. She's turning 87 years old. I'm like, you want to pick Pignon? I'm taking her. I have a bench set. I will carry her ass up the mountain. I will pick the Pignon for her just because I want to. say that part is like, you know,
Yeah, and that's something I went through too. Is you kind of there's so much times I wouldn't pick up the phone, you know what I mean? Or I don't feel like talking, and then now I never get those phone calls, you know what I mean? So it's something I had to cope with and deal with. But going forward, it's kind of taught me, we get so caught up in, and this is where people listening is, we get so caught up in our daily lives, right? Or daily problems or whatever the case may be. And we tend to forget who's really behind us. You know what I mean? Because we're so stuck in just boom, going down this road so fast. And we forget about the people who are helping us getting the car going, or we forget about just the little things, you know what I mean? And that's why when me and Jack talked on the porch the other day, I said, dude, these are the things that changed my life. I said, just sitting in the backyard, you know what I mean? Enjoying a drink or whatever the case, and talking and having a genuine conversation. I said, this to me is what I appreciate most out of life at this point, is these little things where you're just kind of in a zen and, we're just having a conversation about each person's perspectives and just spending genuine time. And, that's kind of just where I've been. Even, sometimes I'll go to my grandma's or my mom's, sit in the backyard, and we'll just have a cup of coffee or something and just enjoy the scenery, and that's kind of the little moments that mean the most, and it costs nothing.
exactly. Absolutely.
What do you think?
That's kind of my shrimp cocktail. Remember I talked about the shrimp cocktail?
Yeah.
It's funny because we sit down and we should get a shrimp cocktail and be like, what's the next move? What's this? What's that? But he's a little younger than that at that point. And he was kind of like realizing that, like, you know what, dude? I think right now, as long as I can eat shrimp cocktail, that's my favorite thing to do. And he'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? The guy can buy anything he wants. But I think it makes you realize now, years later, 3 years later, that it made sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it did. It's unfortunate, but it did take that loss for me to get out of that. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, once you ignore someone's calls and then they're never there again, you kind of look at life a little different, And for me, my healing was I had to step back, and I just totally kind of stayed in a cave for a while and just self-reflected more than anything.
Yeah.
And I came out, I'm back to normal, as I would say, but I'm different. Certain things don't matter to me anymore, and certain things do matter to me a lot more. So that's kind of what's changed.
I think the thing about it's like one of the things that you got a little bit about, we talked about, was having those regrets, right? And that's one thing that I could say. That's why I think this was a lot easier than it's like just mind blowing, or people thought I was going to just fall apart, is because, like when I knew my mom was there, we sometimes we would just get into it. And holy shit, it'd be like that. But then we'd come back to a spot. But I was there. I'd call them every single day. I'm a very big communicator, right? Even if you're my friend, I'll fucking wake you up at 5 in the fucking morning just to fuck with you. And I have this routine, right? And I think that's why I talk about living life with no regrets or limitless. You hear me say hashtag a lot. And it's not really about setting a limit or doing it. It's like, I don't feel any of that. Like, you know what I mean? If I can help you, I'm going to do it. There's no bullshit story. Like, I ain't going to be like, oh, I got to do this and I can't do it. I'll just, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. And I think that's one thing I've prided my whole self, my whole life. That's why I don't really have a lot of regrets with anything that I do. Whether it's accomplishments or this, because I go balls to the wall in anything that I like to try to do. And I think that those people that you love or that matter to you, you kind of want to put that extra effort so that you don't have that. Imagine, like, yours is a little different because you have the restraining order. But imagine if you just say, like, I don't want to answer your phone call, or you're pissed off at them, and you really have that good bond, and then they go and get in a car accident and die that night. You didn't have the opportunity to tell them that you love them or you were there. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Yeah. And so then it's like you never have that. You're able to put that piece together. You're not at peace anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have dealt with that. So like I said, I dealt with death young. One of the things that I feel is just the craziest thing is a lot of when death happens, the word that always comes to me is a lot of people just exist and don't live. And those are the moments that, like, I really want to just, like, are you living or are you existing?
Let's touch on that, right? Let's touch on using my mother's life, right? You look at her, you got to imagine, she grew up in an era, she grew up in 1948, right? You think about that. People were looking at you like as to become a young entrepreneur, especially as a female. No way in hell, right? I remember telling her, I was a little boy, I was in second grade, and she's telling my dad, I'm going to the College of Santa Fe, and I'm going to get this whole florist thing, and even he was kind of skeptical, and people were, oh no, that's a waste of time, and is they going to work in a small town and all that? And she was like, fuck you. So started her path. I remember she'd leave at 3:00. She would cook us dinner, and she'd leave at 3:00, and then she'd come back late. It was like 9, and she was going to school Monday through like Thursday is what I can remember. And I remember when it was all said and done, and she launched the business, people were still the naysayers, right? And she fucking killed it, and just destroyed it. She was just pounding it, busy as shit, always busy. And I looked at that and I thought, man, she didn't take no, she didn't give a crap what you said. I used to always tell my mom is 3 years, 4 months ago, I remember walking in, and we met with the oncologist in Santa Fe, and they looked at her then and they said, look, you have stage 4 bone cancer, and I think that it's going to spread like this, and you got about 3 weeks to live. My dad's sitting there, I'm looking there, I'm pretty freaked out. I'm like, holy shit. She stands up, she stands out of her chair, and I'm like, what's she going to say? She looks at the oncologist and says, that's okay. I've been married 52 years. I raised both my sons. I raised them to be a businessman there. And by the way, I got to go because I haven't fed the dogs. You'd have felt like someone told her, you know, you didn't pick up your lawnmower. Right?
Yeah.
Not a tear, no, oh, woe is me, nothing. Just straight up like that. And they're like, well, you know, did you hear what we said? We're going to put you on, we're going to get a hospice out to your house and all that. And she said, you're not sending no one out there. If you send them to my house, I'm going to kick them out. And you know what, you son of a guns? I'm going to die with my hair. You ain't going to give me any of that shit. It's exactly what she looked. She says, I'm dying with my hair. That was her most important thing. She says, die with her. She died with a shitload of hair, right? She died with her hair done. Believe it or not, there was an awesome nurse named Deanna, freaking years, the badass, who out there did her hair, helping, like I said, PB really, just that kind of stuff that I talk about, right? But ultimately, conviction. She had a conviction. Very convicted individual. You know, we traveled. She was telling my dad would be like, oh, when he was a shift head engineer at Los Alamos Labs, and they would have the shift changes. And so she had it planned out when he had that Friday, they'd have 4 extra days plus his 2 weeks. And she would have all the vacations planned out. We went to Nashville, Dollywood, the Yellowstone Park. I mean, we'd have these big old amazing vacations that nobody was having, right? My parents owned 19 cars, brand new cars. She was so proud of that, you know what I'm trying to say? And so, like, she was like, I grew up poor as shit, but here's where I'm at. I was like, Mom, who's your idol? She's like, Dolly Parton, because she was so poor and she had the coat of many colors. And she was so convicted. I mean, you say something about Dolly Parton, you might get your ass kicked, right? And I used to tell people, don't talk about JFK, Dolly Parton, the Pope, you're going to get your ass kicked. Those are the Virgin Mary. You know, those are like the no-goes, right? But I look at that, and she didn't leave anything on the table. Based on what she wanted to do, she did it. Besides her big trip to Australia, because she had gotten sick then, and she was afraid of, do they got cancer doctors out there? And you know, it's kind of like, I'm like, she should have done it, because it's not like it just hit it overnight. Mm-hmm. It still took 67 to whatever, right? Mm-hmm. 72. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're just kind of just like a fucking frog on a lily pad, you're wasting your time, right? Mm-hmm. Me and Carson, we laugh our ass off, but people just are out there just looking for the next lily pad, right?
Yeah, that's what we said the other night.
You know
say
that
again. The next
individuals looking for the next lily pad. It's like a freak,
pad.
Right? Whether it's a female, you see all these females out there jumping from lily pad to lily pad, and you see these guys falling apart, job to job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They're trying to find. They don't even know what's going on. You know why? Their foundation's fucking water. And if you visualize the lily pad on the water, you're really not on a foundation, because once that lily pad withers away or the bird takes it, you're fucking in the water. And you got to stop. That's what I'm talking about, living life with a purpose. That's what you're kind of trying to say. Mm-hmm. So get off the lily pad and get on land, right? And start building the foundation, whatever it's going to be, whether it's going to be in the desert or what's going to be in the mountains or whatever it's going to be. You got to have that foundation. And that's one thing that woman taught me, you know, is about that foundational things you have to do. Don't, you know, stand for something or fall for everything, right? Bottom line. You hear a lot of, you know, you start watching YouTube, you start watching this, people are falling apart, you know. You know, my mom told me one thing. She said, look, she says, this came down from my grandfather, but she was telling this is, you protect your home, you protect your loved one, You protect the church, and if anyone starts talking smack about any of those things, punch their face out. That's what she told me when I was little.
Wow.
And so I always give everyone the warning: if you're going to start talking bad about any of those 4 things, I'm going to punch your face out. Right? I'll deal with the consequences later. And because again, you got to stand for something, you're going to fall for everything. Right? And this is what's going on with society. She was so sad. You should see. She told me when she watched the presidential debate, right? And she couldn't really have it, but she's like, and she says, "What do you think, Mom?" And she's like, "Tontos." And she said, you know what I mean? I'm feeling like, what the, no, nothing. And it was crazy because Brian Colon went out there to do the rosary with her, and he was talking about how they're both saying like how when they used to watch Reagan, and in that era, you watch those politicians. It didn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, but you're like, wow, I want to aspire to be a public servant because those dudes, it was about real stuff they were talking about. And you're like, those are outstanding men. Now it's a fucking shit show, right? It's the Kardashians on steroids, right? Based on, it doesn't make any sense. And that's what I'm talking about. And so I can go back to a piece of history. When I grew up, my mom, you didn't got a choice. You're watching the Waltons, you're watching Leave It to Beaver, shit that I knew that was way before my era. But this is what was bred into my mind as a little small child. There was no trash. When I became an adult, I decided to let all the trash in, right? And experiment this, that, the other. But I knew my foundation. I got to tell you guys, I'm going to jump a little bit off this kind of a crazy subject because, John's going to like this. And so, I get really heavy in the studying like religious beliefs, right? And like back and forth. And I know where my cord's at. But when I was a kid growing up, I'm a 90s baby, but, I grew up in 70. I was born in 78. So I was kind of like, as a child, I experienced a little bit of the 80s. And so what I never understood was like when I was going to church, I was too small. And so there'd be like, down with heavy metal music. And I didn't know what was going on. And something, they're just crazier fundamentals. But I guess there was this guy, I might chop his fucking name off, but I think it was Aleister Crowley. And he's like the first founder of Satanism. And how he went out, I guess, founding all these big artists. Well, long story short, I watched this YouTube. It just popped out of nowhere and I watch it. And the crazy part is there's a song by Ozzy Osbourne because I like Ozzy Osbourne because my dad listened. Sorry, Dad. You don't listen to that. My brother listened to that. And so it's Mr. Crowley. So I didn't know what any of that shit meant, right? But the bottom line is, if people feed you something and you can't, my mom would always say, go out there and research it. Well, back then you had to get the library card, you had to get the freaking encyclopedia, but you can't find mainstream shit. What are you going to find in there? So now you're trying to find papers and you're just fucking screwed. But you're digging like a rat relentlessly to figure it out. And here I am later on when the internet comes in. Here I was wondering about that when I was a kid. It didn't matter to me, but here we are 20-some years later figuring it out. I think that when you think about that, even then she was, again, no limits. It doesn't matter. If it means that much to you, get out there and start doing it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's why I make things, Nikki, we would talk about this, look easy because I don't see a defeat. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. With all this shit going on today, I had to get my license the day it expired. And I had to get the fucking real ID. And it's by invitation only or whatever. Not invitation only, but the bullshit thing you got to do, right?
Appointment only.
Yeah, but do you think that works for me?
No.
Do you think that stops me? No. I walk in there like I own the fucking place. And then they're like, well, he must have an appointment. It was all said and done. 40 minutes before this, I got it all done. But that's what my mom taught me. She says, no fear. If you go in there looking like you don't belong, then people are going to think you don't belong. But if you go in there like with a purpose, how are they going to know? Right?
Exactly.
And it's funny because the opening statement I gave the lady said, they told me to show up here at 3:00. Nobody told me shit. I told myself that. But you see what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But you got to go on that purpose. And I think that's what I've tried to provide you guys, in the podcast and you guys that are part of the freaking YM squad here is because it's kind of like that foundation. Don't let anybody tell you can't do anything or any of that stuff because here I saw a woman beat all the odds, being a female, starting a business in Northern New Mexico, all this stuff where you can't do this, you can't do that. And she didn't give a crap. She's like, I'm going to do it. There was never a no for her. If tax and rev said they got a paperwork, I'll wait right here till you got to figure it out. Don't worry. I got all the time in my hands. Like, it was no, come back tomorrow. You know what I'm trying to say? Send the fucking email. I just don't do that. I'm going to say no email. You know, it's so funny. Me and Carson we were in the weight room there before all this shit happened. And the lady says, you got to go make what the fuck we have to do? A nap?
Oh, an appointment.
Oh,
Yeah.
register an appointment. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you fucking kidding me? And I know they have to do certain things, but that shit's just whack to me. Like, in my mind, it doesn't register. Right? If I pay my membership, I'm not getting a reservation. Right? I'm not going to Ruth Chris over here. But those are those fundamentals that I'm talking about. Is like that basis of just, I'm going to take this. And like you said, not just living life on the sense of no purpose.
Yeah. I spoke this to some people the other day. I shot for a friend that I got to meet on a reality TV show pilot that we shot a while back, and she was the designer on it. Well, despite COVID and everything, she still went through and she still designed her fall line, and she still put everything together, and we shot a virtual like fashion show. And when everybody got in a group, I could see everybody just having fun because it hasn't been in a long time, I'm sure, since people had that stuff. And I just took a second and I just honored her. And I said, there's a lot of people that have talent. There's a lot of people that, you know, have skills. There's a lot of people that have crazy ideas. And I said, but there's a few that put action to it. And I took a second to let everybody like honor her for that, you know, because not a lot of people do that. Despite everything going on, she still didn't let anybody's opinion. She got it, and it launched live. And I think almost all her stuff sold out the next day that she launched it. And you know, to know that my photos are a part of something, but it's those people that I love the most is like that put that action to their dreams, no matter what their dream is. Like, shout out to Mikey Vince over here. You know, I remember sitting down when we were doing the impact thing, and then, you know, he had just talking about food meal prepping, and then he started doing that, and it took off. And then, I'm not gonna kid, I was shooting at Old Town, and I was like, oh, look, there's a food truck, and the line's massive, and guess who it was? You know, it's Burnt Fideo. It was him. It was Mikey. Has a line out the door until he sells out.
Mikey Vince in the food truck?
Mikey Vince is doing a food truck.
You,
Burnt Fideo.
You know what's funny? You know, he took a lot of photos of me early on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that guy. That guy's fucking awesome, man.
He's
That's
killing it.
We're gonna roll up to the food truck heavy. That's all I know.
But to know that I had those conversations
Yeah.
and seen it and watched him, and no matter what, like generator problems, like everything that has led up to that, and then it didn't fall through, and then next thing you know, look at his food truck. It's called the Ladybug. It's gorgeous.
That's badass.
So
That's
if it would have happened
badass.
at the beginning, it wouldn't have been on the level it was. But see, his persistence led him to the greatness that he deserved. Because if he let in on the first no, he wouldn't have done nothing. If he let in on the second no, he wouldn't have done nothing. But he went and surpassed that. All the obstacles, all the stuff it takes to get, you know, the stickers, everything, even to get the people to work for him. And yet I see him here, and I see all these social sites, like, you know, in Rio Rancho, they're like, there's a food truck on this corner, and he's killing it. You know, who goes in Rio Rancho and puts a food truck out by King Street? Let's get real. But then, yeah, everybody was writing. I saw the stuff, all the love. And it's just like, I knew with his intention, I knew with his power of vision, his like integrity to do things right and correctly, I knew for a fact, and I told him, things are just gonna, it's like miracle grow. You know, there's people that manifest slowly, and then there's people that just, man, a whole field blows up. And like right now, sitting here, I think, is today Wednesday? Tuesday. So I think tomorrow they'll be in Santa Fe and Mariposa Park or whatever it was, because people wanted them there. And how cool is that? You know, so I just have to show love to the people that actually put a thought and action. And no matter how many no's, they still got it. I mean, that's how we have KFC. Look how many times that guy got told no. And, you know, I love that stuff. And I love real life stories, you know.
So Colonel Sanders' stories is painful. 60-something. I'm glad I got it started at 20-something. You know, but don't give up. Another shout out to is, look at Monica, man. Monica out there with the home, the caretaking home. That was going to be one of the options. I mean, I had to call and pull some strings for her to get that shit done. And you know, we've seen people from our area do some great things. And I got to tell you another thing that I got to just say out there, nurses. Oh my God. I've gotten such a respect for you all that I can't even tell you.
I
Nurses are the freaking angels that walk together. All the nurses that I had that working with my mom, like the love that they showed and who they were, and even for me and the compassion and stuff, I was like, holy shit, our nurses are underpaid. It's like our teachers. Those are the two things, nurses and teachers. Holy shit, because they really do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Like, you don't got the good nurses. I mean, even the nurses that I was in Taos, were just phenomenal. Phenomenal people. You get one like kind of bad apple, but they're still not that bad, right?
Yeah.
The other ones will put them in check.
Mm-hmm.
Just freaking phenomenal. The nurses.
And to know that they endure all that and still have to go home and live their everyday life is always baffles me,
But you know what's crazy? I asked them that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not enduring anything. They're living their best life.
Yeah.
When you talk to nurses, one of the ones is Diana. I asked her, I said, how did you want to be a nurse? When I was 12 years old, I used to go door to door and ask if anybody needed to be taken care of.
Wow.
So I can't, they got their true passion. The majority of nurses, they ain't going home tired. That's what I've always talked about in past podcasts, natural state versus where you perceive yourself to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a job where you perceive yourself to do, you're going to be tired. If it's your natural state, you're not going to be tired, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's just who you are. I did this big interview years ago, and they asked me, what would you be doing if it wasn't technology? And I said, if it wasn't technology, I said, I'd be a life coach. What I learned in Martin, and here I am, pretty much life coaching. We call it a podcast. So I'm not tired to do the podcast. I'm just imagine coming here like, well, what are we going to talk about? I don't know what's going on. None of this is scripted. None of this is scripted. We come in here minutes, and I'm like, John, we're going to talk about this. He's never had something from last week we're going to do. And it's from, there's a flow to it. It's natural, right?
Your passion invigorates you.
Yeah, there's no, you're sitting down and laying it out. We got a lot of smart people. I'm sure Johnny, other people get involved and be like, we're going to script this, and I can run a script. That's not who I am. I've delivered some master speeches, right, at commencement speeches for colleges, right? And we used to have an actual PR agency, and they wrote my speech. And I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, feels good, but this fucker's not me. And I remember we're sitting there, and I'm doing the National ITD Tech one. This is massive among students, right? And I get this speech, and I'm up there, and they're waiting for me. And I said, you know what, guys? I want to let you guys know my PR agency wrote this speech for me, and this is what I'm going to do. And I know they're watching me. And I said, I'm going to flow this from the heart. And man, the ovation was just ridiculous, right? Because that's just my natural person.
It's authentic and it's real.
It's authentic. And don't get me wrong, it captured a lot of stuff, but that wasn't me. Like, that's not what the message that I wanted to deliver. It was a very politically correct, get you to the next level. Directors are going to love you. They're going to continue on and do the business, but that's not what I'm about. If you don't like what you see and what you hear, then I want to do it. So I'm talking about people, right? We shouldn't have to pretend to people to like us or that stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want you this. I always ask you, I said, Nikki, how you doing today? So don't say no one ever asked about you. I always say, Nikki, what are you doing? How you doing today?
That is right.
See that? You forgot that shit. I just wanted to know. Winston, I'm like, Winston, what the fuck? Same thing.
Seriously, though. Seriously. I love it. And I love the flow state. And I think that's been one of my favorite things about this is because I come here like it's unknown waters. Like I have no idea what's going to be said. But I feel like that's where the universe is conspiring through itself. That's where we're at the leading edge, where everything comes from a true state of truth. That's why the Truth Podcast. But not only that is it's authentic. We lose ourselves even in photography. Sometimes it's too posed. It's too set up, And then I got my girl, Lindsay Faye comes through and she just brings fire. She brings personality. She comes in. I don't even have to say nothing. I actually have to keep up with her. And I'm like, those are the people I want to work with. Those are the people that I want in my circle, is the people that I'm just capturing their fucking greatness.
Yes.
And a friend called me last night. I'm not going to say any names, but man, I regret saying what I said earlier because I got a phone call last night and she starts crying, telling me that, that she doesn't realize how much I impacted her life. And she told me, I'm sorry that when I was there that I didn't treat you the way that you deserved because no one ever made me feel greatness in myself like you made me feel. And that was the most heartwarming, like, I'm doing what I meant to do. Like, if whoever's listening, if you guys get that feeling from me, like, I'm walking my purpose. And she sat there and went off for 30 minutes of like how I've impacted her life. And I never knew it. But what did I do? And we fought like cats and dogs. I mean, she's the only person that's ever deleted me off of social media and I added back. I don't add people back, but it's because we love hard. You know, I love, like, there's a spiritual connection. Yeah. And when you get two headed people, none of us would give. She finally just deleted me. And then the next day added me, but we just had a heated moment. But that phone call really just let me know that even though I wasn't expecting anything back from her, that my intention and my energy and my love that I gave my friend was seen. And it actually, like, she used it. You know, it's the coolest thing to know that I have that impact on people's life.
The deleting, should I call that the female emotion?
Yeah, for real. I mean,
because me and Carson, we go at it, but we never delete each other.
Yeah, we actually never had.
Yeah, so we used to clown. I used to go on them hard before. He never deleted me.
Yeah. Sometimes I'd get pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I just got a mess with you. But
No,
when you
it's
said
good,
that,
though.
when you said that, I'm like, okay, that's all.
I think this whole thing that I'm taking out of this whole thing, besides, you know, honoring your mother and honoring, like, if it wasn't for your mom, like, we wouldn't have you. And it's such a fucking blessing. And I can't even imagine you in another way. Like, if you were just some douchebag gym dude, like, with no nothing. It's like, you're like, I know people see you all tough and you have all these fucking cars, but you got the biggest heart I've ever met in a man.
Don't be telling that to anybody.
I know,
I'm
but
trying to keep
I'm
that a
gonna,
fucking
I'm gonna
secret,
say
nigga.
it's real. I'm impact. You can't fucking hide. I don't
You
care
can't
about your
hide,
life.
baby. I'll
I
find
feel
you.
that. I feel that, you know, and it's such an honor because no matter if your mom impacted you positively or non-positively, she gave you us. And then not only that, she created the best fucking version of you possible, that it's unstoppable. And it's such an honor, you know, and I, out of everything out of this is, can we please, like, live fucking life to the fullest?
Yes. And I think,
You know?
Nikki, you know, one thing you said is I'm all heart for a fact. That's why I got the big chest, right? But I'm gonna tell you right now, I know how to, what I'm trying to teach people, that those people that have big hearts and can love hard, what we're trying to teach here is know who you're loving and who you're depositing into, and not the negative bank. And if the negative bank shows itself, pull the fuck out. And that's what I'm talking about. So, like, the people that I've loved hard, and there's been people out there, you know, there's a few out there, and I hope they're listening, that I went out and helped. Like, I actually stepped out of my way and helped them in shitty times and their bullshit times and all that. And I didn't even get the fucking minor thing. But I'll tell you, that's what I'm talking about. So we're not even talking about the people in Smallville. Those are exactly it. So what you know is, you know what I call that? That wasn't right away instantaneous. That's a bad stock. So right now, when I evaluate it, you know, when you get a bad situation in your life or good, evaluate your stock portfolio. And now I'm telling you that I'm going to sell that fucking stock at a loss. But it doesn't matter because I'm not looking back. The stock's going to be sold. And that's what we got to talk about in life. John, you got anything to add on that?
No, this has been a good time. But what I tried to say earlier is that there's going to be tough times that you're going to struggle with coping, you know. And I know, because I was 23 when it happened, and I was the rock in my family because my parents were devastated.
Yep.
And I wasn't able to, during that time, to sort of cope and deal with it. But it still comes.
You have to do what I do. So you got to hold. You're holding the foundation, because if you break, everybody breaks, right? You know, it's tough. I felt really sorry. My aunt calls me that night before, and she's gonna start to hyperventilate, and I'm like, we can't do this right now. And I said, I gotta go, and I felt bad, but I knew if she broke down, I was gonna call a Cowport effect. My pops is looking, and I'm telling him, no, it's all right, and he's there. But if I would have slipped, it would have been a fucking disaster, and all of us would have been in the shithole. And then nothing's done, right? Like, when the whole thing happened, no one sets this shit up for you, right? Mm-hmm. And so my mom was very prideful. She paid for everything at DeVargas. And I mean, it's not that seamless. So you're like, what happens? The moment I knew that day was going on, I'm making fucking phone calls today and saying, look, this might happen. What's the fucking process? Oh, well, you got to have, I said, no, fuck no. You're 2 hours away. So this is how we're going to do it, right? So if I would have fallen apart and I would have let my emotion take over me, it would have been a disaster, right? We're sitting here yesterday going with my dad, and you know, I don't know if you guys have ever been through the process, right, of actually sitting with a mortuary, and they're sitting there like salesmen, right? They're like, you know, your mom bought this package, but is that all you want?
I'm trying to get you more.
Yeah, and then,
guacamole to your
yeah,
burger.
and I'm sitting there thinking, imagine people are emotional. I'm looking at this guy like a stone fucking cold killer, right? He's like, holy fuck, this guy's normal. No condolences, son. I appreciate that, but you know, you're not gonna find me falling apart. I know what you wanted, and this is what it is. It was even like on her obituary. She says, these are certain people I don't want to be mentioned. And my dad said, what do you think? I said, no, fuck no. Whatever she wants is what we're gonna do. It don't matter what we think. It's what she thinks. You know, it's not for us. Back to what I'm saying is that ultimately sometimes, and it's sad, John, it's hit me like that. You know, I was telling like when I was reading this poem, I sent it to Nikki. I want you to pull out that poem because we're gonna end it up with that, Nikki. I texted to you.
Okay.
And this poem, you're sitting in there, you're going through all this shit, and it's like they just sit you there, right? And they leave and they come, and I call it the upsell. And I'm like, this is like fucking a car. I'm like, you kidding me? But if you go in there emotionally, it'll take you to the fucking paint. But when we're going through and getting what are those cards called? I think it's the end card, but it's the card that has a picture on it, right? And they said, pick your poem and stuff. And when I was going through this is what really motivated me for today. And I said, that's when I text you, John. I text you all and said, we're going to go through the podcast because my mom wouldn't want me moping around, like not falling apart. She'd have been like, get your ass to work. You got to bring the bacon. And, you know, just I knew who she was. And I want you to read this poem, Nikki, and then I'm going to close it off with some wise words. But you got it in front of you?
I do.
Okay.
So there's a shining light on one of the words, so I can't see what it says.
Okay. Listen.
So the masterpiece, the Lord in, I want to say Almighty Kingdom is what I'm guessing. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay. And then I don't see, I'm going to just start from right. A gift of such magnificence, he almost could not wait. He could call her mother and make her soft and warm. He'd make her a protector and fill her soul with charm. He'd mix in tender loving ways and weave her satin hair, then give her to our family and put us in her care. Her purpose here has been fulfilled, and now she must go home to rest among his finest, our mother's soul's God's own.
How powerful is that, right? The poem's called The Masterpiece.
I love it.
And that's what it is for me. So you know what, guys? At the end of the day, you have your opportunity right here and now to forge your masterpiece. What will your story, what will the end of your story be? What kind of movie is it going to be? What kind of novel is it going to be? What kind of poems is it going to be? Ultimately, at the end of the day, my mom's is about strength, courage, and just being good to people and protecting those that can protect themselves. That's going to be my legacy. But I'm going to roll. What is your legacy going to be? But I'm going to tell you right now, don't let the bullshit, what's going around the world, affect your legacy. Be who you're going to be and just roll right through it no matter what shit you're going through. But for all you guys there that have lost somebody, my condolences to you if I don't even know who you are. But you know what? It is a tremendous loss, as John says. But love to be back. Love seeing all you guys, and God bless.